I come from a split home. Parents split when I was 2, and then got divorced by the time I was 3. And as long as I can remember, it's always been tumultuous. If one person is gonna show up to one of my events growing up, and the other person wouldn't show up there.
Oh gosh! So your parents are children. What in the world is going on? This is John with the Dr. John Delony Show. Show where we talk about your mental health, your emotional health, your marriage, your parenting, who you're dating, whatever's going on with your in-laws. We talk about all of it on this show. Whew. So grateful that you're with us. I know you got a lot going on. I know you got 1,000,000 voices clamoring for your attention. I'm so grateful that you put your headphones in, or you got in the car and you turned this show on, and you're going to sit with it. Big news. This is big time. We talked about this on the last show, but I'm going to keep beating this drum for a while. Available to pre-order right now, my brand new book, Building a Non-Anxious Life. When you pre-order this book, it's $20. That's it. I'm going to blow you up with bonus items. I'm super hyped as we start rolling them out. It's going to be very, very cool. But it also includes instant access to one of a keynote I gave to a couple thousand people. The book provides 6 daily choices to overcome an anxious life. It is really my flag on the moon, for those of you who believe the moon landing actually happened. It's my flag on the moon. It's my stake in the ground to say the way we are dealing with mental health in this country is not working, and we got to do something different. So I know it's gonna be exciting, and but it's a book that will change your life wherever you happen to be. This is about real change for real people, not a bunch of theories, not a bunch of nonsense. This is for you and your family. Building a non-anxious life. So go pre-order it right now. Go to johndelony.com and they'll have the link there. Check it out. All right, let's run out to Andrew in Spokane, Washington. What's up, Andrew?
Doing pretty good, man. How about yourself? How's life treating you?
I would be lying if I said it was anything other than pretty awesome. It's pretty good right now.
Good. That's great to hear.
What about you, man?
Everything's going pretty good. Outside of just some issues going on with family drama surrounding, getting married next month. So.
You have family drama? That's weird. Just kidding.
I know.
It's not. So what's up, man?
So quick little backstory. I come from a split home. Parents split when I was 2, and then got divorced by the time I was 3. And as long as I can remember, it's always been tumultuous. If one person is gonna show up to one of my events growing up, the other person wouldn't show up there.
Oh gosh! And, so your parents are children.
I don't want to word it that way, but yeah,
I will. They're not my mom and dad,
okay.
So they're elementary school kids. Fine, I'm taking my ball and going home. Good job, parents. Way to go.
Essentially. And, it's gone through probably only a handful of moments in my life that I can actually think of that they've been in person, like my high school graduation, basic training graduation, those type of things. Leading to my marriage next month, my dad found out that my mom was going to be at the rehearsal dinner and pretty much said outright that he doesn't want to show up to it. And
bye, Felicia.
My fiance.
Gosh, seriously,
mm-hmm.
He is opting out. Gosh, that's so heartbreaking, man. Like, I'm making a joke, but I'm heartbroken for you. I'm sorry.
It's difficult, because me and him do have a good relationship overall. And but my fiance and I were just discussing what's going to happen in the future when we start having kids and trying to plan birthdays around them and those type of things. And so we tried to discuss it with him. We've called him, and immediately he got defensive, saying that we never stand up for him. And he has a lot of times in his life where doesn't have the best relationship with friends or family, and it's been pretty difficult. And we didn't know if it was right for us to confront him and talk to him about it. But yeah, we just don't really know how to go forward with it. It's been pretty difficult.
Yeah. So here's the language I would use.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, Dad, this is my wedding, and I'm inviting all of my parents. If you choose to not come, it will break my heart, but you're a grown man and you get to make that choice. I hope to see you there. And that's the end of the conversation. Anytime he starts with nobody ever sticks up for me, you guys have always said, Dad, I'm not going to continue down this road. And what you're going to start doing is practicing putting your own 2 feet underneath you, because you're now building your own home. And you're building your own legacy and your own trajectory. Ideally, he would be a part of that. And for whatever reason, the whole world's out to get him, and he can't see the forest from the trees, and he can't make hard choices through his own discomfort in service of a larger picture. And I hate that for you. I hate that for your kids. When you have kids, the birthday party will be here. Everyone's invited. If you choose to not come because mom came, or if you choose to not come because dad came, you're a grown-up and I can't make you be here, but it will break my heart if you don't want to be around my child. And that's it. You have no other role to play. Your job isn't to make him feel okay about himself. That he's he's your dad. That's his job. Tell me why that's hard.
Well, I try to comfort from understanding, because he did have a lot of trauma growing up. There's a lot of things that he's gone through too.
But hold on. That was then, and this is now.
Yeah.
And if he's going to continue to let what happened when he was a child drive the car through adulthood, through grandparenthood, then he is choosing to not be a part of his son's life and his grandkid's life.
Yeah.
It's a context, not an excuse. Yes, his childhood was hell. I'll give him that. That doesn't give him license to kick and scream like a child all through his 50s and 60s and 70s, to the point that it impacts his kids, his son's new marriage, his grandkids, and on into the future. That's how family dysfunction continues from generation to generation. And you, my friend, are being the strong one to say, this stops with me.
Yeah.
Because your childhood was hard too, right?
Yeah, I was blessed with at least having two parents that loved me, so I try not to dwell on it too much, but it was definitely difficult trying to balance it.
It was hard.
Yeah.
I'll dwell on it for you. You don't have to. And by the way, when you have a little one, it will come screaming back at you. So just be ready. But I will you'll remember this moment. You'll be like, oh, that's what that idiot on the podcast was talking about. But I'll tell you, it'll come for you. And that's all good. That's why you're going to have a great marriage. You're going to work hard on having a strong marriage. You're going to have some men in your life that you hang out with and do life with. So when this stuff comes, when those childhood memories come running back, especially when you're holding your own kids, you'll be able to absorb it, right? It'll become part of your life. It won't be something you have to run from. And right now your dad's still running. And here's the scary, sucky, crappy part. You can't fight that fight for him.
Yeah.
What you can do is set boundaries that will help you have a whole marriage, help you be the best dad you can be, to help your kids be whole. And a lot of that's going to come with some grief, man, because you're going to have to sit with a broken heart, wondering why your dad's dislike for his ex-wife is greater than his love for his son.
Mm-hmm.
And that just hurts, man.
Yeah. It's something, I've that's exactly how I've worded it, and it's something I felt for a really long time. And yeah, like you said, I just have to try to continue to do better and make sure it kind of stops here. So
I wouldn't say just try to do better. I want you to hear me say you're good enough as you are. You're a good man.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a matter of continuing to ask yourself, what's the best way I can love my wife? What's the best way I can honor her husband, which is Andrew? What's the best way I can love and honor my kids? What's the best way I can serve and honor and love my community, my workplace, my God, whatever things, are in the foundation of your life. But I think you're doing a pretty good job. The fact you're even asking these questions and considering drawing some of these boundaries tells me you're way down the road, man. It's impressive.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So here again, just to reiterate, my conversation would be with my wife and Mark, your fiance. You're about to be married in a month, and congratulations. By the way, I'm speaking super clearly today. I think I've had 700 milligrams of caffeine so far today, and my tongue is moving faster than my brain.
You sounded like Scooby-Doo.
I think I usually do. Minus the edibles or whatever, he was always on, right? I don't know what Scooby was taking, but sorry.
That was Shaggy.
Oh, Shaggy, his owner. I think they were both a little complicit. But back to Andrew. Back to Andrew. I'm a little bit distracted today. I want you to sit down with your wife and say, hey, who do we want to become? And what kind of home do we want to have? And that hopefully that home includes warmth and that home includes peace. Because your home should be a safe place where you and your spouse and your kids and your friends and your loved ones gather as a shelter for the storm that is the madness of the outside world. And if family members bring chaos into that peace and into that warmth, then they are opting out. And so sit down with your fiance, with your wife, and say, what do we want this to look like? What do we want these boundaries to be? And then begin practicing saying, hey, Dad, this is my wedding. And so I'm inviting everybody. And if you choose not to come, it's going to break my heart. But I respect your right to make that choice. If you choose to not be around our grandkids just because your ex-wife is there, you choose your hatred or your anger more than you choose your grandkid. I hate that, but you get to do that. And I'll sit in that grief. But I'm not going to budge on my boundaries because I'm expanding love here. I'm not trying to constrict. Whew! Andrew, hang on the line. I'm going to send you a copy of both Own Your Past, Change Your Future and my brand new book, Building a Non-Anxious Life, as wedding gifts. Nothing says I love you like a couple of books about emotional and mental health, right? And I'm going to send you both couples decks so that you and your brand new wife will have something to do for the first month or two of your marriage. Or maybe longer, maybe more. Congratulations, my brother. We'll be right back. Hey, Delony here. All right, it's time to declutter. You got a treadmill covered in dust. You got magazines from 5 years ago piled up in the corner, a garage you can't even park in. And all that clutter and mess can lead to anxiety, to just feeling burned out and overwhelmed. And when you hang on to the wrong things for too long, it can lead to something else, bad sleep. That's right. You might have the same nasty, lumpy mattress you've had for decades just sitting up there. Gross. Your sleep is way too important for that. And you're way too important. One of the easiest things you can do to improve your physical and mental health is invest in refreshing sleep. And that includes having a great new mattress like a Dream Cloud. And right now, Dream Cloud is making it a no-brainer to upgrade your mattress with an offer just for our listeners. 40% off of all mattresses plus an additional $50 in savings. It's time to start prioritizing your sleep. Clear out all the clutter, get rid of that old mattress, and go to dreamcloudsleep.com and enter promo code John Delony. That's dreamcloudsleep.com with code John Delony. All right, let's go out to San Fran, California, and talk to Marjorie. What's up, Marjorie?
Hey, Dr. John.
What's up?
Oh, nothing much. Just putting my business out there for millions of viewers to hear.
Hey, man, listen. Nobody listens to this show, Marjorie. You know that. It's true. Nobody listens to this show.
Hey, I do.
There's going to be dozens of people. Dozens. So what up? How can I help?
Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
My question is, how do I emotionally be there for my daughter while I'm going through grief? And the backstory is my husband passed away back in April. And so...
what was his name?
His name was Adam.
Adam?
Yeah.
He was all right?
He was all right. We had a rocky marriage. He was an addict, and so we were separated for the 4 years that we were married, and so it was kind of, I was grieving, through the whole ordeal, and so.
How did he pass away?
That I'm not sure yet. I'm still waiting for the coroner to release that information.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm so sorry. That's so recent.
Yeah.
How old is your baby girl?
She's 3.
3.
Yeah.
Did she know Dad, or was there a lot of separation?
Both. She knew him, but there was kind of a lot of separation. But she knows, if she sees pictures and stuff, she knows that's her dad.
Yeah. Man. So, what does grief look like for you these days?
A lot of not wanting to do much.
Yeah.
And a lot of kind of circular thinking and not being motivated to do things. So,
are you working right now?
yeah.
Where do you work?
I am an urban farmer.
No way. For real?
Yeah.
You like sell like vegetables and stuff?
Yeah.
What else do you sell?
That's it, just produce.
Produce. Awesome.
Yeah.
And you do that year round?
No, we don't do it year round, just mostly during the summer. During the off seasons, we kind of just are getting ready for the harvest season, pretty much.
Okay. So here's the hard part is as a single mom, you got to pay your bills.
Right.
You got to work. You got to make sure your insurance is paid up. You got to make sure the lights stay on. You got to make sure that baby girl's got food.
Yeah.
And you have to honor your body in this season when it just wants to be quiet for a while. And so it's a both and. What you're going to have to do, I would say the most important thing, and I'll give you a list of a couple of things that I think would be really good just to have check-offs on a note card every day. I'll give you those things, but you're going to have to switch your anger and frustration and disgust that you have with Marjorie and change that to curiosity. Okay? Because you get really mad at Marjorie when she don't want to get up and go work out or she don't want to get up and go do whatever. Fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to let her off the hook for a minute, man. The love of her life died. The love of her life died. And when you're in love with somebody who really struggles with addiction, you know this day is coming, and you constantly ask yourself what you should have done and what you could have done. And so the shame cycle gets worse and worse, right?
Right.
You got to let Marjorie off the hook, man. Marjorie did everything she could. Marjorie loved that man to the moon and back, even when she couldn't even be in the same house with him because he wasn't safe. And so when Marjorie's body says, hey, we're laying right here today, if you got to go to work, you got to go to work. But I want you to honor yourself, okay?
Okay.
Now, here's a path out, not for suddenly feeling a million times better. Anybody who's selling you that is selling you snake oil, okay? Don't do that. But here's the path out. The path out is having a note card that you fill out the night before the next day. And on that note card, it's going to say a couple of simple things. One of them is movement. You got to move. That can be taking your baby girl on a walk. That in a stroller. That can be taking her to a park. But you got to move. And the second one is you got to get sunshine. You live in San Francisco, that shouldn't be too difficult. And you're going to, but it's going to mean just for a few minutes, you got to get up and get outside. Okay?
Right.
This is those moments when I don't care what you feel. I want you to just practice the discipline of, I am going to move today. I am going to go outside and get some sunlight and have a cup of coffee outside. The third thing is you cannot do this season by yourself. Do you have some women in your life that you can reach out to, that you can talk to?
Yeah, I have a few.
I would love it if you had a once a week morning breakfast or a morning coffee. One of your friends came over to your house or you went to theirs and brought knucklehead 3-year-old with you. And what will slowly happen over days and weeks and months is the light comes back on a little bit. You're always going to love that guy. And you're always going to be heartbroken. How are you notified that he passed?
Someone that he was living with told me.
Okay. Whew. Can I tell you one more thing?
Yeah.
Often when we lose somebody that we love, especially somebody who is hurting, or somebody who got in a car wreck, or somebody who was struggling with addiction, our brain locks in on the hurt and pain they were feeling as though at the time of the wreck, at the time of the assault, at the time of addiction, using. And I want you to hear me say now that Adam's at peace. He's not hurting anymore. And for somebody who loved him for as long as you did, that was the dream, right? Is that he would stop hurting. You want him to stop hurting and be with you, yes.
Correct.
But it's easy to remember how much he was hurting and to get locked in there. Bro's at peace now. Adam's at peace. And hopefully over the next few weeks, next few months, you can. Have you written him a letter yet?
No.
All right. That's your last assignment. We're going to get a note card. It's going to say move. It's going to say outside. It's going to say contact a friend. It's going to say eat. Okay. You got to make sure you're eating. Are you skipping meals?
Eating more meals than I should.
Okay. We're going to be a good steward of Marjorie. Okay. And by the way, if you gain a few pounds over the next few months, it's all good with me. Okay. I want you to write 3 letters. Okay. Here's letter number 1. Letter number 1 is how much you miss Adam. Dear Adam, I miss you. Tell him what you miss. And be specific. I miss your laugh. I miss when you were sober and clear-eyed, how much you loved me. I miss how funny you were, all that. Letter number 2 is, Dear Adam, I'm so angry I can't breathe. And let him have it. Write down on paper how much you tried, how you went to the ends of the earth, how he cheated on you, how he did this, how he did this, how he did this. Write all that down. The third note, the third letter is, Dear Adam, here's who I'm going to become. I want you to tell him what kind of mom you're going to be to his baby girl. I want you to tell him what kind of mom and woman you're going to be, what kind of business owner you're going to be. Start to write down the plans. Okay? Don't do these all on the same day. Maybe take a break between them. And if it gets really tough, get a counselor. Okay?
Okay.
But I want to get some of these spinning thoughts, like you mentioned, the loops. I want to get them out of my head and out of my body and onto some paper so I can look at them. Okay?
Okay.
If you're a real gangster, a real San Fran gangster, when one of your friends comes over for coffee, I want you to say, hey, I wrote a letter to Adam. Can I read it for you? And I want you to read it in front of somebody else. If you're just a regular gangster, then you can read it in front of a counselor. But saying these things out loud is really, really important. Getting them out of your body is super important, but also reading them. So make a note card every night. There's a practice to this. There's a commitment to this, writing it down. And don't just put it in your phone on your notes app. Write it down on a note card. the night before, wake up that day and just commit to doing those 4 or 5 things. And then give your body peace. Give your body peace. There will come a time in the next few months when maybe you don't want to be an urban farmer anymore. Maybe you want to move. Maybe you want to do some other things. Awesome. Let those things come, and that's why you'll have a group of women that you can bounce some of these ideas off of, you can dream with, you can think big with, get some encouragement or some insights or some wisdom from. But man, you're still flat in the thick of it, man. I'm so sorry that you lost the love of your life. We'll be grieving with you, Marjorie. Thank you so much for the call. Thanks for being brave. That little baby's lucky to have you. We'll be right back. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey folks, all of us need a little guidance sometimes. In life, we're faced with tough situations and choices, and the way forward isn't always clear. I've been in that position. In fact, I'm in that position right now, and therapy is helping me find a path through it. Whether it's a career decision, relationship at a crossroads, or some other struggle you're facing, you need someone to talk with to move ahead with confidence. So if you've ever considered therapy, I recommend BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can walk with you on that journey to discover who you want to become. BetterHelp is entirely online, so it's convenient, flexible, and it fits your schedule, whatever your schedule may be. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Delony today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Delony. All right, let's go out to Denver, Colorado, and talk to the great Diane. What's up, Diane?
Hey, John Delony, how are you?
I'm so good. How about you?
Good.
What's up?
So I have got a kind of moral, ethical dilemma going on in my personal life. And I have a son-in-law and daughter who listen frequently. And he said, you know who you need to ask is Dr. John Delony. So
here we are.
Here we are. And
I'm not a very
hoping,
moral or ethical person. So just so you know.
Well, I have listened to you enough to know that is not true. So I'm gonna kind of lay it all out there. It's a kind of a long story. I'm gonna make it as brief as I can because
go for it.
It's been a long few years.
Go for it.
5 years ago, first of all, I'm 49 years old. I'm married for 30 years to just the most amazing man. We have 8 incredible kids. And 5 years ago, we took the kids up to the mountains about 3 hours away from home, went mountain biking, and he crashed his bike, very, very severely suffered a traumatic brain injury that almost killed him. We spent 2 months in local hospitals, 5 brain surgeries, had half of his skull removed, coma, everything, just horrible couple of months. He regained consciousness enough that they accepted him to a rehab hospital 8 hours away. They said for 2 months, we'll do rehab and do the best that we can. So I packed up, left my kids with family members, and I went to this rehab hospital for 2 months. And that 2-month stay, due to a very serious stroke and seizures, turned into a 7-month stay. And we finally got to go home. He came home with a trach in, a feeding tube in his stomach. I had to learn how to put a catheter in. I learned how to take care of him so we could bring him home. I had so much faith, John, the whole time he would be healed. I knew it. And I'm a religious person, and we had so much faith, and we worked so hard. I knew he would get better, at least better enough that we could carry on a conversation with him. He would be somewhat himself. And over the next 2 years of having him at home, it was a lot of work. And he just never really got better. He did learn to walk again. We taught him to walk. But ultimately, his injuries are he lost hearing. He's completely deaf. And he has no short-term memory. So we can't even teach him sign language because he can't learn new things. He knows my kids. He knows anything that happened 10 years ago or more, but anything that's happened about 2 years before the accident and anything current, he has no idea. He doesn't remember. He's had 3 kids get married. He has grandkids. I have an 8-year-old. He was kind of our surprise baby, and he knows that he has an 8-year-old, but doesn't really know him. He forgets their names sometimes. He has no concept of space or time or age or distance. All of that part of his brain was damaged. And 2 years ago, I decided for the sake of my kids' lives moving on and mine that I needed to put him into a facility. So he's in an assisted living facility just a few miles from home. We go see him all the time. A couple months after we put him in that facility, we made some medical decisions, decided it was time to let him go. And we put him on hospice and thought the time would come that he would pass. And it's been almost 2 years. And despite all medical odds, science, everything, he's still with us. Pretty much no quality of life. We've prepared ourselves to let him go so many times when it looked like everything was heading that direction. And he's still with us. And it's just been so hard to know how to move on. Through this process, I got my master's degree. I went back to school. I was recently, I've become an LCPC, so I'm able to work now and provide for my family.
Awesome.
So my question is, sorry that took so long, but here's my question.
Hold on. Before you ask your question.
Okay.
Can I just sit with you in that for a minute?
Yeah.
That's so much.
It's a lot, and that is just the tip of the iceberg.
I know.
This could be a whole Hollywood movie that would last 10 hours. So
my oldest best friend on planet Earth is a traumatic brain survivor. And when I'm with him now and we go out, I still have to help him go to the bathroom. Still have to have people take care of him and help him. And I can't imagine going up 100x that with building a life with somebody, because it changes everything, right?
Oh man,
changes the way you breathe.
Yep.
And my guess is, as a mom of 8, you've been solving and fixing for 5 years.
Yeah, I have been.
And then you went and got a freaking master's degree. Like at some point.
I know.
Have you exhaled?
After about year 1, I did, and I still had so much hope and so much faith, and we would work with him every day, work on walking, work on brain stuff. Like, don't let him just sit in front of the TV. Like, we got to work with him. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And then after about year 3, I just really had to shift my thinking that this isn't going to turn out how I thought it would. So we've come to peace with it. In fact, we came to so much peace with him passing. That is what we've been praying for the last 2 years, that it would be better for him. I mean, you talk about your friend and how that is with him. My husband is the same way. He would be humiliated to see what he has become. This is not what he would want. This is not the kind of life. I mean, if he had his right sense, he would say, why didn't you just let me go 3 years ago? Why did you keep me alive? And I listened to your last caller, and it breaks my heart, the loss that she feels. And do you know what I'm thinking is, why can't I be one of the people whose husbands get to pass? I'm in the position where I'm jealous of women whose husbands just get to go peacefully and don't have to live through this pain and agony that my family lives through. every day.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, sorry. Because you're right.
It's been hard.
You're right. Hold on, you don't have to make me feel better. You do that too much to everybody around you. When you finally get a glimpse, they finally get a little peek behind the curtain, and they realize how much you're hurting. You have become so accustomed to making sure everybody around you feels okay. And at least for these few minutes, that's not your job with me. I get to be sad that in the effort to save somebody's life, yet again, we got so sophisticated with our medical care that we have put families in these positions. And I'm sorry. So what's your dilemma question?
Okay. So I recently, one of my husband's old friends that I didn't know before we knew each other reached out. I had a Caring Bridge account, Facebook. I kind of would keep friends and family up to date, and I haven't posted anything for a really long time. So he just reached out, said, how's he doing? How's the family doing? So I responded, and we kind of struck up this friendship.
No, Diane.
No. Listen,
All right.
does not go where you think it's going. That's my dilemma. But it was just nice.
It was
awesome.
Awesome.
Nice to have somebody talk to me on that level. It was nice to have somebody check in at night saying, how are you doing? He's divorced, so he's single, but I'm married. And I promise you it has not gone anywhere. You know what I mean? It just,
listen to me. You're not crazy. You're not a bad person.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's my question.
Okay.
It's kind of a doozy.
There's no doozies on the show. Go for it.
I am considering getting a divorce.
Okay.
So that I can move on with my life.
Okay.
Nothing with my relationship with my husband would change. One thing I didn't say about his, kind of his personality is he's very apathetic. He doesn't care about anything. I walk in, he smiles at me. I could tell him his kids took his truck and wrecked it or whatever. He wouldn't care. He isn't capable of caring about anything. So we go see him. It's mostly for us. He doesn't remember. He doesn't really care. And just this little encounter I've had with this man
made you feel alive again.
Really
made you feel alive again.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, would it be so bad if I divorced him just for the sake of getting my feet out of the concrete I feel like I'm stuck in and start to imagine a future? Because for so long we thought he's going to pass any day. And we've lived thinking he's going to pass. And now I'm thinking he could live another 10 or 20 years. Like, his heart and lungs are pretty dang good. His brain's pretty shot, but he could live a long time like this. And what does that mean for me and my kids?
It sounds like in all of the, if I was to distill down, well, let me say this. I want to be careful how I do this because I don't want anyone listening to this to think this is the right path for somebody who's having this conversation. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I am collapsing what would be a long time of you and I getting to know each other and hanging out and me getting to hear all the stories and developing a relationship with you before I started asking you these questions. Okay. You know more than anybody else listening how awful and thoughtless and dumb and just stitched into pillows the sayings you get lobbed at you all the time, right? You've got that for 5 years, okay?
Right.
So I don't want to contribute to that. But at the same time, for the sake of this, I've got to expedite a lot of this, okay? So this is just you and me, same side of the booth, just figuring this out, okay? Actually, I'm not really the same side of the booth kind of guy. So we're looking across from the booth at each other. It sounds like through all of your prayers, the chief prayer over all has been, I want this to be exactly as I want it. I want the outcome of this to be exactly what I want it to be. And wrestling with praying for, and I've done this, praying for someone that I love to go ahead and pass, and then they don't. And then I have the guilt that I prayed for them to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't breathe. And then I go through these like, well, I guess they're here to teach me something, as though that's their job, right? It never stops.
Yeah.
It never stops.
Right. Something I'm supposed to get out of this. There's still something I'm supposed to learn.
That's right. I guess you said it best earlier. There's a coming to terms with the fact that all the things you've prayed for the last 5 years, many of them have come true. They just haven't come true in the ways that you wanted them to.
Yeah.
And the great challenge of just being alive is dealing with that gap of what we wanted versus what we get. What I thought this would look like versus reality. And that's the worst. That's grief, right? That's the black hole. And so going back to what you said, this is for you. I would suggest you're not crazy. I can't imagine how alive you must feel to have somebody check in on you, who also might be a little bit cute.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine how lonely it is not being intimate with somebody when they're right there. All of it. All of it. But just from the few minutes I've heard you on the phone, I'm trying to project out a year from now. Would you be able to breathe? This isn't a judgment question at all. This is a curious question. This is me just asking Diane.
If I were to divorce him, would I be able to breathe? Is that what you're asking me?
Mm-hmm.
I think I would. I don't foresee that me getting a divorce would change anything with him. I would.
Has nothing to do with him. Has nothing to do with him. It has to do with you saying for sickness and in health.
Right.
I know he won't know up from down, day one from day 7. He won't know. You will. And so as terms of your covenant, like this idea, and again, I use that word intentionally, and I'm not even using it in a religious context. I'm just saying there's so few forevers anymore in our culture. Mm-hmm. If you say, no, I'm in forever, and then I don't have to look Diane in the mirror. You do. So if it's like, yeah, no, I've done my duty, and if my husband was alive today, nobody knows him like me. It's been 30 years together. He would be saying, "What are you doing? Go hook up with one of my greatest friends." Yes, at least you'd be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you say, "I'm going to figure out how to feel alive and be alive inside of the parameters life, inside of this deck of cards, this hand of cards that life has dealt me." Because I said forever. I guess at the end of the day, I can't let you off the hook either way.
Yeah.
I can tell you what I would do, but I don't think that's helpful here. And I can also tell you, telling you what I would do right now on this side of this thing actually happening probably isn't even true.
Yeah, this is not something in fact, people started asking me early on, would you have you thought about divorcing him? And I just was like, absolutely not. Like, that is a ridiculous idea. And it's just been long enough. I know if the roles were reversed, knowing what I know now, I would tell him, go find somebody. Go find somebody to be with and be happy with. And one thing, I am a religious person. I've talked a lot about prayer and faith. And my religion, my husband and I were married in our temple. And we were married for what we call time and all eternity. And so one thing I know is if I were divorced from him, it would separate us for this life. But I know and fully intend on living with him in the next life forever. And I know that that's something in my religion that some man would be very cautious to even date me, knowing that I have been sealed to my husband, because that would mean that whatever marriage we have here would not extend beyond this life, if that makes sense. Just, kind of as a frame of reference for where I am at.
Sure. I mean, I don't have any reference point for your religious background, but I would say, based on what you just said, if this is a cosmic linkage, if this is a forever together, what's the rush? If you truly believe that.
And I do. And I know everything is going to work out. I know God's got a plan. And in the end, it's going to be
But you don't like his
great.
plan.
I don't like it.
You don't like
I can't
it.
help but think with 30 more years in me, in this life, would it, is this idea of finding somebody to have some companionship with for the next 20, 30 years. I know where I can tell what you're thinking, and I'm fighting it. Can you tell that?
Yeah, you don't know what I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking how hard this is.
And ultimately, my biggest, I've got an 8-year-old, like I said. My next oldest is 16, and I've got older kids out of the house, and he is my biggest concern at this point, is this 8-year-old that I have still at home. And in no way would I ever do anything that would, make life harder for him or jeopardize my relationship with him, for sure.
Well, this, again, not a judgment question, but just a question, curiosity question. Would you be showing that 8-year-old that there is a boundary to forever? There comes a day when mom moves on. What do you think?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I guess I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction of telling you what I really think.
Just give me permission, John.
No chance.
Just tell me what I want to hear. Nobody ever does.
Listen, no, I hear a woman who deeply loves her husband. I hear a woman who has not yet opened her hands up to the fact that you can't control any of this. And every step of the way, you're continuing to control, continue to try to control, and continue to try to control, even to the point that you got everybody together to plan for the end, that you don't get to decide. And so there's no possible way I'm going to sit in judgment of you on any decision that you make. I do believe that you get to choose to feel alive and to be alive in whatever context you find. I also believe that for sickness and in health and covenant, I don't know, still means something. And I'm trying to think of what my life would be like dating Diane, who's like, no, I still love this guy. I'm linked cosmically forever to this guy. I'm still going to go take care of him every week. I just needed some cover so you and I could hook up. Like, there are certainly men that will take you up on that.
I've talked to a couple friends, and that's what I said. Like, say I go ahead and do this. Like, what guy in his right mind?
Oh, there'll be a line of them, Diane. There's a bunch of just shady people out there. No, they'll be there. They'll be there. They'll be there, no question. But it all comes back to you. It comes back to you. And just talking to you, like you're exhausted. And every plan you've made along the way for the last 5 years has not worked out as you wanted it to. And so your next option to try to control what happens next is what it sounds like to me to violate one of your core tenets, one of your core beliefs religiously, one of your core beliefs in love, because you're real lonely and you're really exhausted. But again, it looks like yet another attempt to control what happens next because you've been out of control for 5 years. And I would suggest before you go file for divorce, you spend some time with open hands and fully leaning into, probably with your kids too. I don't control any of the outcomes now. And I'm going to stop racing and seeking to try to find another outcome that I can control. And God almighty, yes, it feels good when people reach out. That feels good when you've been married and you're happily married. It feels good when somebody reaches out and tells you they miss you or they like you or checking in on you. I would tell you to take a break. Take a break from visiting for a bit. Take a break from the divorce conversation for a bit. Take a break from talking to this guy for a bit. And maybe your prayer switches from, okay, what about this? Okay, what about this? Okay, what about this? And instead your prayer switches to, I've got no control and I've got no power. Please lead me into what comes next. And again, I don't know your faith tradition. I don't know your religious tradition. I know you've been trying to control stuff for a long, long time. So sorry, I can't give you my truest, deepest thoughts on this one. What I can tell you is unhook all the brakes and just sit for a minute. Maybe talk to your kids. Maybe get some wisdom from your friends. But seek to be alive outside of some new romantic relationship for just a minute. Seek to be at peace. Seek to open your hands and say, okay, I control nothing. Get me through tomorrow. And really dig in on the promises that you made for forever. Because you're the one that made them. And if you make this other choice, you're going to be the one that breaks them. Diane's going to have to live with Diane. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for your bravery. You're awesome. Call anytime. We'll be right back. Hey, what's up? Dr. John Delony here. Check it out. My new book, Building a Non-Anxious Life, is now available for pre-order. Here's the great news. Anxiety is not the enemy we've been led to believe. I know this because I've walked alongside countless folks over the last 2 decades, and I've struggled with this too. If you create a life of intentionally living out the 6 daily choices I've outlined in this book, you're going to be able to better respond to whatever life throws at you. You're going to learn the choices you can make day by day to create a more peaceful, joyful, less chronically stressed, non-anxious life. Plus, when you pre-order my book, I want to give you something to help you today. That's why you'll instantly get my newest talk, Smoke, Fire, and Freedom, that I gave to several thousand folks a few months ago, where I break down the misunderstandings and myths we believe about anxiety, how to reclaim your freedom, and how to build a non-anxious life. So pre-order Building a Non-Anxious Life today for just $20 at johndelony.com. All right, we're back. As we wrap up this show, man, this last call caused a lot of back and forth with the studio back here.
Yeah.
And Kelly, you brought up some great points about I was locked in here. And let me tell everybody listening, I was locked into this caller, and I was running through my head in real time some conversations I've had over the last 20 years with folks in similar situations, and I just didn't feel it was appropriate to bring them into this without asking their permission. So I didn't. Just knowing I've sat with people and given, like, I think you should do this next. I didn't feel that was right here just because they were on the phone. But you brought up some important things like, if you divorce somebody, do you lose the right to visitation? How do you split up assets? Is that even, what are the legal ramifications? How does it go? I mean, that causes all kind of other mess you have to sit down with a lawyer, obviously, and figure all that mess out.
Yeah, I mean, we were just wondering as we were talking in here, because, I know there's certain states you can't divorce a pregnant woman. So is there any reason you couldn't divorce somebody that's impaired? Maybe not. I don't know. But also then if you divorce, does the care then fall to his children? Does that put that on them? Because I know that she's got adult children as his heirs. Or does
it roll up to Medicaid? Yeah, how does all that work?
Where does would she lose her rights to make all those decisions for him? Because I'm assuming now, she's got that right as his next of kin. So there's, in addition to man, I just want a life part of it, but there's also the, like you said, the spiritual part, and then the legalities of it.
The moral and ethical part and the legal part,
it's just,
yeah.
I mean, there's so many, it's like, I know she probably feels like damned if she does and damned if she doesn't, I
think there's 100%, yes.
Yeah, and I just feel for her. That's just a horrible situation to be in on so many fronts.
Yeah, I go back to, I was talking with a psychologist once and was really pushing me. It was a famous psychologist. I won't give his name out, but it was a famous psychologist that we were engaged in a pretty heady one-on-one, and it got heavier and heavier, and he kept digging into my marriage and digging into my marriage and digging into my marriage. And I was giving him all of my surface answers as to why my wife and I have stayed together we'll celebrate 21 years next week. And especially when there was times when it got real gnarly, right? Like, we had grown up conversations about, are we going to keep doing this? And he kept pushing and pushing, and finally it popped out of my mouth. He was like, but why? And finally I said, because I said I would. And I landed on this. I didn't say unless ... I didn't say there's an end to this. I said I would. No matter how stupid and how dumb, and I said I would. And that sentence, that covenant, that I promise you till the end of time, was what kept bringing me back to the table. As frustrated as I was, as lonely as all those things, I said I would. And I cannot stress how grateful I am that I had that. That I anchored myself to that sentence, because the easy thing would have been just to be like, hey, what's the cool Hollywood saying? This relationship has run its course, which I think is the most
conscious
BS.
uncoupling.
Well, conscious uncoupling is just like, if we're gonna get divorced, let's be grown-ups about it. But like this relationship just ran its course. No, that means one of y'all quit driving. One of y'all took your foot off the gas, and you can do that. I just don't buy that happens inevitably. That's when somebody makes that choice, and I'm just so grateful that I anchored myself to, because I said I would. And I just think as a culture, we just have stopped buying into that. So that's tough. Ugh. So I don't know. I'm going to end today's show with, I don't know. And I'm sure the YouTube commenters will have plenty to say. I love you guys. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. See you later. Bye.